This is a story about my grandmother's weaving. Her name is Juanita Smith. She is of the Bitterwater clan born for the Minigoats clan, and she is from Shanto. She says she started learning how to weave when she was about my youngest sister's age, who is 9 years old now. My grandma learned how to weave from her mother, my great-grandma Bessie. My great-grandma Bessie wove to support her family. My grandma remembers her having about 4 looms up at a time. That way she could make a steady income because she could start another rug right after finishing one. My great-grandfather made all of my great-grandma's weaving tools. He made them out of oak wood that came from different areas. Back then, people didn't trade their tools, only their rugs. My grandmother says that everybody helped with the work around the house. Everybody helped shear the goats and sheep early in the summer morning before all of their body oils made it too difficult to cut, and the boys helped wash the wool. Back then, they didn't have all the various colors of yarn that we have today because none of it was store-bought. They had to spin their own yarn. Sometimes they carded different colors of wool together to get different colors of yarn, or they dyed them with specific herbs. My grandma said they either carded wool and spun it into fine, thin yarn, or they just spun the wool without carding it to make a thick, bulky yarn that was still as strong. My grandma said that her family took turns sheep herding. When their mom was out sheep herding, her and her siblings would stay home and weave. Then after their mother returned in the evening, she would weave by kerosene lamp. She said that must have been one of the reasons for her vision loss. When their mother would go somewhere, she would tell them not to let the loom sit idle. She told them to continue weaving even if it was her rug. Back then, traders would buy any rug even if it was misshapen because they knew the profit from weaving was the main source of income for most families. Today, however, most traders are very picky and want to sell at their own price and not at the seller's price. Back then, there were no blankets. People wove rugs to sleep with and to hang in their doorway to keep the cold out. They made jackets out of rugs as well, but they looked like ponchos. Their beds were made of sheepskin because goat skin is too thin and hard. They made shoes out of sheepskin by tying a wet skin in a gunny sack in the shape of a person's foot and letting it dry like that. Some people were able to mend rugs. My grandma doesn't know how to do this, but one of her aunts in Gray Mountain could. This is a picture of one of my great-grandmother's rugs. It has been mended several times and you can see where it has been sewn together. When traders came to the area, they brought blankets. A good blanket was worth the equivalent of $30. People traded sheep, goats, and rugs for commodities, but they wouldn't give a trader a live animal. They would take it to the trading post and butcher it there so it would be fresh. Sheep and goats are really important because after the long walk, each family was promised 2 sheep or goats, commodity food, and monthly payments from Social Security if they sent their children to school. Some people didn't take care of their sheep properly and lost them. Others had to work really hard to turn theirs into a huge flock. My grandmother has carried on the tradition of raising goats and supporting her family through weaving. My great-grandmother was able to buy cattle and donkeys for sheep herding by trading her rugs. My dad remembers some of the significant purchases that my grandma has made doing the same thing. In 1973, she wove a rug about 5 feet by 8 feet and traded it for a 1963 pickup truck in Farmington at a used car dealership. She wove another rug about half that size and traded it for a turquoise necklace. That necklace was worth the equivalent of $500. It was a significant purchase because it has been through a lot of graduations, ceremonies, pictures, and pawn shops. In 1976 or 1977, she traded a rug for her family's very first butane stove at Baby Rock's trading post. In 1985, my grandmother wove a rug about 4 feet by 5 feet. A white woman was very interested in buying it, so she went back to Phoenix and brought a 2-year-old Arabian horse to trade for it 2 days later. The horse was worth about $500. My grandmother's weaving holds a lot of value for me because it takes so much passion and motivation just to make one of these rugs. Every time I look at one of her textiles, I can see that her passion and motivation has not faltered after all this time. Now I really appreciate how my grandma made my sisters and I take turns weaving as children. She said we had to learn how to sit still, but I know that she was really just encouraging us to be passionate and motivated in whatever we do in life.